Hi guys, welcome to the video, and in this one I'm going to show you a few problems that occur with scrubber dryers, in particular this Numatic machine we're going to be working on today, but this does follow through for lots of different machines. So what you're going to want to do is, in this particular case, you're going to want to tilt the machine back so you've got a little bit of ground clearance. And the issue with this machine is it's not picking up water. So the staff members reported that it's not picking up water. What we need to do is check this squeegee blade on the back first and foremost, as this is where the water's channeled. As you push the machine along, it's channeled into this squeegee, and in the centre of the squeegee there's a pickup hole where the vacuum sort of picks the water up through there. What you'll notice is the channel's actually blocked. It's blocked full of gunk, fluff, debris that's come up off the floor. This is why it's really important to make sure the floor is thoroughly hoovered. So all I'm doing is here, I'm just going to run the hoover over the top of this channel, hopefully to suck everything through. You might have to poke it with a screwdriver or even one of those thin brushes that you use around the tap edges. So as you can see, this is quite clear now, so I'm quite happy with that. And then we just need to address the blockage that's backed up into the actual pipework of the machine. This goes a little bit further in. So we're going to hoover the opening to start with, which is directly in contact with the squeegee blade at the back of the machine. And then what we're also going to need to do is we're going to need to check at the front. So I'm going to remove the cap on the top of the inlet, just above where the squeegee blade is situated, as this will just give us a little bit more visibility as to how far back the problem goes. In most cases, it does just reside with the squeegee hole, and once that's unblocked, it's pretty good. But sometimes this can back up into the system and get a little bit further down, so we're going to need to free this up. So you can see now that's clear, but on the top end, we need to check with our fingers just poking in to make sure there's nothing further down this pipeline. And then there's also another pipe on the other end, which is where the main vat connects. And we're going to want to look down there. And what I also do is take the hoover head off and just pop it over the top. Give it a good tight seal with your hand, and then just check that the actual vacuum is sucking through from the bottom, because we just want to avoid having put this machine back together and find that we're not actually curing anything. Once that's done, we can start putting the machine back together. And in order to do this, I'm just going to put the front pipe back on there, make sure that's secure, and then we're going to want to put the squeegee blade back onto the machine. So there are locating pins. You've got small slots in the back plate, and then you've got the locating pins on the top. Once these are in place, simply tighten the bolts back up on both sides. Whilst you've got this out in the open, you can check the bolts further out, which actually hold the squeegee blade onto the casing as well. So once we've done that, we're going to want to refit the brush to the bottom of the machine. And this is done simply by locating the pins on the bottom. You've got 3 location pins, and the brush simply fits over the top. You might need a little bit of a wiggle to get it on, and then you turn it in the opposite direction to get it to lock in place. As you can see there, once that's on, I'm going to pop the machine back down onto the ground and plug it in for a test. So one of the things I will point out is, whilst you're filling the machine up with water, always make sure that the plug is off. It's best to always isolate any power sources whilst you're using the machines and topping them up with fresh water. So you can see we're just going to fill up the reservoir, not totally to the top, but just enough to be able to run a test on the machine. Once you've done this, you can switch the machine on. Now generally I only turn on the fluid. I don't put the vacuum on immediately, as I want to make sure that there's plenty of fluid coming out the bottom. You can see in this case there is. It starts to push out from besides the brushes. And then once you've done this, you can turn the vac on and just push the machine forward to check that everything's working efficiently. In this case, you can see it is now working and it's picking up the water. So with the scrubber dryers, obviously the idea is that the floors dry extremely quickly. You will get a very, very slight residue of water on the floor as you push the machine along, but it just dries pretty much instantaneously after that. Once that's done, just isolate the power on the machine and we can move on to the next step. So one of the other issues with these machines, not with this one in particular, but one of the issues that tends to occur is that when you're actually pushing the machine along, you're not getting any water out the bottom of the machine. So I'll show you the first step in checking this out. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to remove the reservoir for the fresh water cap. Take out the filter so you can get your hand inside. And what you'll find is there's a very small inline filter that's joined to the pipe that actually picks the water up out of that reservoir. Give it a good shake, because what you'll find is you get a lot of residue on there where there's too much chemical being put in the reservoir, and it can sometimes settle on the bottom like silt and gunk up the filter. The other thing you're going to want to do is check this little tap on the front of the machine to the bottom right, and just check that it is in the position to allow flow through the system. And just to the side of that, there's a pipe. You can see a thick rubber pipe. Just give it a good squeeze. Make sure you can see a few bubbles going back and forth, because again, these can get really gunked up with jellified chemical, and this does pose quite a big problem. Once you've done this, just replace the cap, and then we're going to run the machine on a test and just make sure that what we've done has cleared the way. If this does fail, you're going to need to take the machine apart, take the pipes off the bottom, do a little bit more of a thorough investigation. So one of the last things we do is we're going to run this test before we wrap things up. We've put a wet patch on the floor now, we're just going to run the machine over the top of. And once you discover everything's working fine, you can call it a day. So hope this has helped. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.